Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited today to finally be able to show you my V2 sorting system that I've been hyping up for so long. I think this is one of the coolest things, if not the coolest thing that I've ever built in Minecraft. One of the things that I like most about this is just all of the moving parts and everything that has to work together in order to make this work. So you can see all the carts going around, all the items, just everything has to work together perfectly, and it does. And I think that's something that's truly beautiful. So I'm just going to take a moment to appreciate that, while I also thank the people who helped me on this. Primarily, Ashlaja helped me with the Shulker Box unloader system and a lot of the logic for the whole system, and Inspector Talon, who helped me with a lot of the cart logic because he knows so much about carts, and I couldn't have done it without either of those guys. So with that out of the way, let's jump into what this sorter actually is. As you've probably picked up by now, this is a cart multi-item sorter, which means that it uses minecarts in order to sort out items, and it can sort multiple different types of items into the same chest depending on how you program it. So this is a pretty space efficient way to sort items, and it's also blazingly fast because this works at almost 8 times hopper speed at its most efficient, which is when it's sorting items in parallel, which it's doing right now. So you can see that there's items being sorted into this chest, there's items being sorted into this chest, there's items being sorted in here, there's a few items being sorted in here, and this is all happening at the exact same time. So all 4 of these chests are working at 2 times hopper speed, which means that in parallel this goes up to 8 times hopper speed. My previous system, which everybody already thought was really fast, was 4 times hopper speed, so this is twice as fast as that. And then it also is able to sort 16 stackable items by default. You don't have to like flip a lever like you did with the previous system, and it also doesn't slow down the system at all to sort 16 stackable items. Talking about other comparisons to the old system, this thing is hopper locked. About 70% of the hoppers per slice are locked, which means that even though this thing is quite a bit bigger, at least height-wise, it's actually slimmer in the x-axis, but it is a little bit bigger in the y-axis. So even though it's a little bit bulkier, it's still more lag-friendly than my previous system because of the hopper locking. And then another really big criticism that people had with the previous system was the lack of Shulker Box support. And this is able to sort Shulker Boxes at full efficiency. So you can see here that this Shulker Box right here is being unloaded at almost 8 times hopper speed. So this is the actual speed that items are getting sorted out into this system. One other thing that was a big problem with the previous system was item despawning. So if you sorted too many of the same type of item into the system, then you would encounter item despawning. But this system avoids that by having the carts get built up in these cart consolidators that I've invented for this system. This is a really, really cool piece of redstone that I want to talk about pretty soon. But basically what this does is it holds the minecarts in these chambers and doesn't dispense them into the world, or it doesn't like break the cart to drop the items into the world until the hopper actually has space to pick them up. So you won't encounter any item despawning issues while you're using this system, which is a huge plus. I don't think I'm going to give a full tutorial on this system in this video because it's quite a bit more complicated than the previous video, or the previous version 1 sorter. So I'll probably make a dedicated tutorial video in the future, but for now we're just going to go into the little bits and pieces and everything that has to go together in order to make this system work, because I think understanding a redstone build is very important if you plan to build it, because there's quite a bit of things that can go wrong, and if you understand everything that's happening in a storage system or in any redstone project at all, then it will give you a way better chance of being able to fix it on your own. So without any further ado, we'll get into all of the different components and the deep dive into the system. So the life cycle of an item in this storage system starts right here in the input chest. If I drop a whole bunch of white wool in here, the system will automatically start sorting. I don't have to press a button or anything. And you'll see that each cart will grab 64 items, and then it'll drive over this detector rail. And this detector rail will check if the cart is completely full. Because if a cart is completely full, it can't grab any items into it, which means that it won't be able to get detected by the whitelisters down here, which is a problem. So if the cart is detected to have 64 items in it, or a full stack of items in it, it will briefly unlock this hopper over here, which will pull out one of the 64 items. And then you can see that another line of hopper carts is being dispensed up here. And one of these extra hopper carts will grab that extra item so that 2 carts will go through the system at the same time in order to sort out the 64 items. So you'll see this top cart, will go on the top cart line, and the bottom cart that has the 63 items in it, right there, will go on the bottom line. So it'll go under these chests, which are whitelisters. This is a whitelister invented by Inspector Talon, and I think it's really cool because it's so dang small. So I wanted to use it for this system. It'll go under this cart, it'll grab one of the items, and then the cart will drive over these 2 hoppers, which will drop off the extra filter carts. Let me get this going again, because I actually ran out of items because it's so fast. Let me throw a whole bunch more white wool in there. So it'll come under this chest, it'll grab the item, then it'll head up into this bubble elevator here. Except before it does, it'll go underneath this rail right here. And you can see that the top cart that has the 1 extra item, it's timed so that this bottom cart will go perfectly under it and it'll grab the last item out of this cart. So you'll see this has 1 item here, and then if I can grab it over here at this bend, it's got 0 items. So the extra item gets taken out by the bottom cart, then it heads up into this bubble elevator and gets stuck in this queue right here. So this is a component that I've called the cart consolidator, because each cart comes into the system with a single stack of items in it. So it's got 64 items in it. And that would mean that in order to prevent despawning, we would have to have a giant queue of minecarts that each had 64 items in them. Except that's really space inefficient, because a cart can hold 5 stacks of items. So if we only have 1 stack of item per cart, we're not getting the full efficiency out of these cart queues, and then we would have to make the system really, really big. But instead we have this clever redstone logic that checks if a cart becomes empty. So it'll get all the items sucked out of it, and then once it becomes empty, it gets dispensed out and broken. So what that allows you to do is take all of the items in all of these carts and squish them down into the fewest number of minecarts possible, which lets this thing sort a lot of items before it gets backlogged. And if it does eventually get backlogged, if the cart queue comes all the way down to here, even with the cart consolidator going, then it will turn off the system temporarily to allow time for this to finish sorting. One other thing that I forgot to mention with these cart consolidators, oh, you can see it working just now. There you go, you caught a glimpse of it there. One other thing I forgot to mention is that these things also control the hopper locking. So if there's any items being sorted out into a slice, it will trigger this repeater here to turn off, which will then go down this whole observer line, and it will turn on this pulse extender. And while this pulse extender is active, all of these hoppers in the back will unlock. So you can see if a line is sorting by if it's turned on. So this line is turned on, which means that all of these hoppers are unlocked, but all of these other ones in the system are locked because they're not turned on. So the rest of the carts that don't go into the bubble columns, which are these carts in the top line, they'll head all the way through here, they'll go through all of the different slices, and then they'll end up at the end, they'll drop down here, and then these carts will be reused in order to take out the filter items. So instead of needing another hopper line that goes across the entire system in order to bring all the carts back, you just reuse these extra carts that I'm already sending through the system in order to grab these excess carts. So they'll come all the way down here, and eventually they'll get broken into this cart yeeter, and then the items will go up this bubble elevator and get dispensed back into these chests here. And you can see that any excess carts from these cart yeeters also go into this bubble, or this water stream right here, and they end up in the same system in order to bring the carts back into the storage system. The next part of the story with this storage system is the Shulker Box Support. So the Shulker Box Support is pretty complicated. I'll do a quick run through of how it works. I guess I can throw some empty shulker boxes in here while it goes. So I'll chuck a whole bunch of empty shulker boxes into this chest, and then we'll watch how they work. So the minecart will take a single shulker box, it'll go over this rail, which again will check if the cart is full, which it is. So the shulker box will get pulled out by this hopper right here, and it'll end up in here. But before it ends up in here, it will get detected by this comparator, which will check whether it's a single item or if it's a non-stackable item. If it's a single item, the item will come down here and it'll get grabbed by this extra hopper right here. If it's a non-stackable item, it'll come down here into this little circuit here that will check whether it's a shulker box or not. If it's a shulker box, it'll end up getting dropped into this dispenser, and then it'll head on that way, which I'll go over really quickly. And if it's not a shulker box, it'll drop into this water stream, head all the way around here, and eventually it'll end up going into the non-stackable item chest. So this is where all of your non-stackable items will end up. Let's follow where this shulker box goes. So it comes up here, and it lands into this system right here, which will place the shulker box, check if it has any items in it, and then immediately break it. If it's empty, which all of these shulker boxes are empty, it'll get dropped down here into this water stream, and as you can probably imagine, it ends up in this chest where all of your empty shulker boxes will go. If it has items, the items need to be emptied out of it first. So it'll come down into this system right here, which will dispense it'll dispense the shulker boxes out into the world, and then it'll start carts going wherever there's items in this shulker box, and then as soon as it runs out, the carts stop being dispensed. So let's actually chuck real shulker boxes into here at this point. We'll get rid of all these dummy shulker boxes. And I'll grab a couple of these ones. So this has a stack of every single type of wool plus a non-stackable. So you'll see these shulker boxes get picked up. They'll head on over in here. They'll get dispensed out of this. They'll head up into here, and then they're going to end up in this dispenser, which will then start the whole system. So the first thing that happens is this previous shulker gets broken and picked up, and then a bunch of carts start getting dispensed, and all of the items from this shulker box start getting pulled out at 8 times hopper speed. Once the cart has all the items that it needs, it's going to get pushed off here. It's going to go along this rail, which is going to pull out all of the filter carts. So you'll see that, and then it'll get yeeted. So it'll go into this lava cauldron. Its items will get yeeted, and it'll come up here and land on this pressure plate. So while this pressure plate is held down by items, this sorter will keep on dispensing minecarts. And you can see that instead of needing to hopper the items directly into this chest, this setup with the trapdoor right here and the bubble elevator is just perfect so that the item slightly overlies into the next block while still being on the pressure plate. So this cart is able to just actually pick up the items directly out of the world. And then this cart like this does exactly what I already mentioned a cart with items would normally do. So I think that's a pretty good overview of all of the different pieces that go into this storage system. Again, I'll probably make a tutorial in the future. I don't know how long you're going to have to wait for a tutorial because this system's pretty complicated and I want the tutorial to be good. And I'm also in college right now working on all of my classes and working on my social life and stuff like that. So I don't really have that much time to work on Minecraft stuff anymore like I did during the summer. So I'll try to get a tutorial out pretty soon, but for now, there is going to be a world download and a schematic for this system. So if you really want to try it out, you can still look at the world download, or if you have Lightmatica, you'll be able to build the system following the schematic. So if you have any questions, ask them in the comments. I'll probably be able to respond. And yeah, thank you for watching.